Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Robert Stickle. I'm also joined by my colleague Jose Levy. Jose will be today's presenter and will discuss the topic of unlocking success, connecting strategy execution with OnePlan's strategic portfolio management solution. This webinar is a new addition to our series of strategic portfolio management webinars, so if you enjoy this video, feel free to watch the others we have available on our channel and look towards the next installment, which we'll be releasing soon. And as always, I hope that today's presentation grants you some insight into the world of project and portfolio management and gets you excited for the new developments happening within the industry and here at OnePlan. Thank you again. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jose.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on our webinar on connecting strategy to execution with the OnePlan Strategic Portfolio Management Solution. For those of you that do not know us, we've been in the market for some time with our solution. We're an advisory shop as well as a solution provider for strategic portfolio management and portfolio management in general and all of its derivations. We have a number of different solutions that cover the domain. We have been awarded Partner of the Year multiple times within the Microsoft ecosystem, as well as other recognitions by industry analysts. And we have a number of other competencies within Microsoft, as you can see. So what this means is we are impacting the most enterprise accounts within the Microsoft ecosystem in the portfolio management space. Just wanted to also announce, we recently had a press release where we acknowledged our expansion into the UK market. Now we're a global organization. We have a number of customers already in the UK, but we have made additional investments in order to support our customers, both in terms of consulting resources and support. We also count with a number of partners in the UK that can act as resellers as well as implementation partners. So we are, again, adding additional resources and investments in order to provide greater value to the UK market. So in terms of our topic, which is unlocking value through strategic portfolio management, in a recent survey, enterprise portfolio program management professionals, listed the following as the biggest challenges. We are faced with orchestrating enterprise change due to the need to be agile, the need to react to changes that are occurring in the marketplace. Along with that, there is the challenge of prioritizing cross-functional investment. So demand is coming from multiple places. We have a finite set of resources. We have strategy that's been defined. So how do we prioritize across all of those requirements, all those initiatives? And then finally, speed to deliver value. In other words, we are increasing the need for immediate results. We cannot have delays. So we need changes to occur quickly in order to address all the different market conditions. So how do we manage this within an organization? So going a little deeper, the top changes are listed here, and more importantly, EPMOs that are using strategic portfolio management, elements of strategic portfolio management, tend to outperform their peers in addressing the major challenges. We talked about responding to major external disruptions. We talked about realizing expected business value from digital initiatives, the speed of launching new digital initiatives. So as you can see, what's occurring here is that if you have an EPMO and if you are using strategic portfolio management, elements of strategic portfolio management, it's pretty marked, the difference between our performers and organizations that are not. using strategic portfolio management. So essentially, if you adopt some of the elements that we're going to be talking about today, you're likely to outperform your peers. You are likely to face these challenges better. So that's really what we're trying to advocate here, that adopt strategic portfolio management practices in order to face these challenges and outperform your peers. So what is strategic portfolio management? So strategic portfolio management really is a set of practices, capabilities, processes, and supporting portfolio management technology. That's a definition there on the right. And it's really made up of three different pillars. The first is strategy execution management. And really that has to do with the definition of the strategy in an explicit form, and also the big focus of strategy execution management is really managing business outcomes, which is another way of saying managing impact. In other words, we need to understand all the choices, from all the choices that we have, what are the ones that are likely to give us the greatest impact for the investments that we're making. So that's really at the top. The second is probably the one that a lot of you already implemented in some way, shape, or form, which is really an enterprise PMO. And if we take the word enterprise out, just a project management office. And really what that's all about is, enterprise program and portfolio management, the domain that we are most familiar with, which is really, having a list of projects, agile plans, programs even that that we're managing through delivery, which is shown below, and we are, ranking in some using some criteria in order to determine which ones are most important, and as a result, we can allocate resources, both financial and people resources to that ranking. So I'm willing to wager that a lot of you already have elements of this, and it's a foundation level really for strategic portfolio management. It's the part that's been around for the longest. We have this third component, integrated IT portfolio analysis, and really the IT portfolio is the one that kind of triggers. We're really managing elements of our enterprise architecture and business architecture. And it's really, focused around IT, but really with a perspective on, building all of the capabilities and value streams of the organization. So it's not only, just looking at IT portfolio management, it's going beyond that. And, the probably entry point for integrated IT portfolio analysis is application portfolio management. So really is a, kind of a first step into getting into, practices of enterprise architecture and IT portfolio analysis. So I want to highlight part of this definition, which is interesting because, strategic portfolio management is, as with these three different elements, is capabilities, processes, supporting technology, which we provide, but is really the second part is also important. You're creating portfolios of strategic options that we can focus finite resources. So, we don't have endless resources, and really is to execute the business strategy, execute our business strategy. So we're bringing it all together in order to get the most out of our resources in order to deliver on our business strategy that we've defined. So another interesting element that came out of the survey was that there's really three elements of doing strategic portfolio management, which we can focus on in order to have faster delivery of the strategy. Again, what differentiates those that are having success with those that are not? And really the three elements are, can you connect strategy to execution? And that's really that portfolio alignment component that comes from strategy execution management, the very first part of the strategic portfolio management pyramid. The second is, value-driven decision making. So within that EPMO component, can we go beyond the business case? Anybody can put together a business case. We have can put great numbers behind them in order to rationalize making an investment decision. But can we truly measure the business outcome and the impact? So this goes into benefit realization management and making sure that we are throughout delivery of the initiative, measuring that business outcome. And the third is, being adaptive in portfolio decisions on changes that are occurring. So that's portfolio flexibility. And the typical portfolio cadence is quarterly. We need to get to the point where we're rebalancing portfolios on a monthly basis. And that means that the cycle of data updates throughout all those three elements, has to be managed. So you need to be having high data integrity and having executives, willing to entertain and make those decisions of change within your portfolio, again, on a monthly basis rather than a quarterly basis. So if you can hit on these three, you're going to deliver 2.5 times faster on your strategy than if you don't. So now we're adding the element of, okay, if we do strategic portfolio management, can we hit on this three levers in order to deliver faster on our strategy? So another element that I want to leave you with is that, this might actually take place within your organizations under a lot of different names. And this has to do with, practices that might be in place already, or leadership preference, from their experience and in other organizations that they came from, or how they were brought into the business. So this is the hype cycle for strategic portfolio management, and all it's pointing to are different practices and technologies that might manifest strategic portfolio management within your organization. And we can see that the EPMO, which I talked about being the foundation, is something that has been in place for some time in most organizations. So, whether it's an EPMO or a project management office. Then we have the concept and practice of strategic portfolio management, which would include all three use cases that I talked about up here. As something that's fairly, it's newer because it combines all those three different use cases. But you can see other other elements of strategic portfolio management here: product development, the strategic realization office, the agile component that will address adaptive portfolio management and reporting. If you have elements of this within your organization, that is a good place to start in your improvement journey. And as you can see, there's other ways that strategic portfolio management might be realized within your organization. So what does this really mean? And I just wanted to highlight that, what we're trying to get to the point is that we can actually define a business objective with some key results. Now, this is one way of doing strategy execution management. If you're using objectives, goals, measures as a model, if you're using balanced scorecard, it really doesn't matter. What we're trying to do is, okay, can we define an objective? Can we define some key results or some KPIs that actually allow us to determine whether we reach our business objective? In order to achieve these, we're going to really deconstruct them into initiatives. We're going to define initiatives. Those initiatives, might have different projects, agile product plans, and those are actually going to also be impacting, again, the enterprise architecture that we talked about earlier. Our applications, our capabilities, our value streams. So what is the connection between all of these, and how are we actually getting to, again, impact on the business. And that's really what the objective of strategic portfolio management is, putting it all together in order to measure impact. So we're going to use a crawl, walk, run model in order to go through the different elements. You could be starting in a different order from what we're suggesting here. This is just, again, a representation of how you could go on to achieve strategic portfolio management by addressing the three scenarios. And we're going to start with a crawl with our EPMO, Enterprise Project Management Office scenario, which is, has always been a foundation. It's been for some time a practice within organizations. So in this case, we're recommending that you start by, perfecting multiple portfolios, programs within your organization. Because we are adaptive now, you're going to have to mix methodologies and frameworks. So you're going to have agile and waterfall methods harmonized within your portfolio selection and prioritization. Because there's so many tools in the market, you're going to have to bring some of that work in. So in this case, we're representing that you have Microsoft Project as well as agile planning tools, Azure DevOps and Jira coming together into a portfolio solution. And in this case, if you want, you don't need, in the case of OnePlan, you have all these capabilities within one tool, so you don't have to go anywhere else. Even if you wanted to do, again, waterfall schedules and agile planning, we represent here that you have tools of choice just in case you have to integrate them. And what this means is your focus areas are going to be on perfecting intake and demand, perfecting portfolio selection and prioritization, resource management, financial management, and then project management and agile plan management. So these are 5 areas that are foundational. You don't need to do them all, by the way. One of the recommendations I'll make at the end is that you really need to focus on, where you're going to have the greatest business impact. So in most organizations, when we go through and do assessments, we see that, intake and demand management, portfolio selection and prioritization, resource management, project management are really the top 4. Financial management, if needed, can be included, but usually comes, in a phase 2 if you have not perfected this first 3. So we recommend, pick 3, if you will, in order to perfect your EPMO, which is your, your first foundation level for strategic portfolio management. And here we're evolving into adaptive, like I said, because we have to incorporate both, waterfall and agile planning methods within organizations. So now that we've done the first foundation level, we can move to the second. By the way, I do want to mention that, OnePlan differentiates itself by having a connector platform, and that allows us to bring information from different solutions, again, depending on what you're using. And that can extend to line of business system information for financials, actuals, and human resource data, as well as the enterprise architecture, which I mentioned in case you have an existing repository, and the strategy component if you're using Viva Goals for Microsoft or any other tool. So if there are existing tools, in order to bring it all together into the strategic portfolio management solution, OnePlan has the connector platform. If we get to our second level, here's where strategy execution management comes in. And we listed here as our second step, but some organizations begin within strategy execution management as the first step. So just because we put them in order doesn't mean that you shouldn't focus on one versus the other as a starting point. But here the focus areas are strategy definition. Do you have clear objectives and key results that have been defined? OKR's tracking, in other words, are you having check-ins where folks are actually assigned and they are updating your objectives and key results through time? Strategic alignment, can we deconstruct them into initiatives that are define, clear projects and product plans, agile plans that are going to deliver or impact our OKRs and allow us to reach their OKRs. And then finally, at the lower level, benefit realization management, do we have practices in place for, tracking the outcomes and the OKRs even at the initiative level? So this is the second step. And again, you can do it within OnePlan or integrate it from another tool, but it's where we get to the alignment component. That allows us to measure whether we're going to be able to deliver on the OKRs that we've defined. And here, clearly the concept is that we're managing execution at one level, and we are going to see how we are connecting that to the strategy component. And this is again a continuous cycle. As you, if you recall, we're going to have to deliver faster by making portfolio decisions quicker. So that's why there's a need to have a connection between these two different practices. So the third is, in order to get to full strategic portfolio management, is including the enterprise architecture component from an IT investment standpoint. So the focus areas here are really on having an application portfolio initially, and within it having the ability to tie it to business capabilities, value streams, information. These are all elements of your business architecture, as well as products and any other enterprise architecture, business architecture element that you might want to map. So here we show how we can articulate that within OnePlan, within our enterprise architecture area, and if needed, you can connect it to your enterprise architecture repository. If you don't have one, we have one that we recommend and implement as part of the solution. And this is, again, where you are going to have your full enterprise architecture defined. So again, this is that third pillar. We put it as run because this it is an EPMO perspective, and it also involves collaboration with the enterprise architecture area within your organization. So again, this is something that it can take longer time and greater maturity, but it is equally as important if you want to have again all of the picture, the complete picture of how your organization is going to deliver on strategy. So here, what does that mean? That means that we're going to have all three components: strategy execution. We're going to have the enterprise project portfolio connected to it, and we're going to have our integrated IT portfolio connected to it. And you can see that the arrows are meant to reflect that you have data between these three perspectives constantly being updated in order to allow you to make decisions on a continual basis on changes that are occurring internally and changes to the priorities, the strategic priorities that you have within the organization. And it all can be managed within OnePlan. So two key features that I'm going to highlight are our visualizer, which allow you to see the connections between all the different elements that I talked about, their status, and the capabilities flexible in terms of being able to show dependencies as well as cascading effects between changes that are occurring between one and the other. So this is really what we need to be able to get to, where we can see how one objective in this case has key results that are tied to projects or epics, that are tied to products, and then impact applications and capabilities. And likewise, how does one project actually impact forward our entire IT investment portfolio, and then how does it impact our strategy? So you can do that by utilizing the OnePlan Visualizer. The second is using our modeler, which allows you to do what if scenario modeling, and you should be able to do what if scenario modeling along those the different dimensions that I talked about, which is again along strategy and along your uh, IT investment portfolio reflected in your business architecture and enterprise architecture. So I will show how you can, develop different scenarios and models based on constraints for target cost benefits and also the timing of when investments are going to be coming into fruition. So what I'd like to do now is jump and show you a few of the capabilities that I talked about. So 1 second here while I change my presentation. Okay, so I am here within the OnePlan Strategic Portfolio Management solution, and we have a number of different solutions based on templates. Templates are really meant just to accelerate our implementation life cycle, and they're very flexible. So we can even combine elements. We end up having to combine elements between all of them in order to address your specific requirements. So a team member, for instance, anyone really within OnePlan will always have the ability to come into what you're seeing here, which is a project home, in which you get some insights into items that you have to comply with or reminders of items that you have to comply with based on governance. We have in the bottom here a list of plans and that you're working on or you're shared with. I'll explain in a second what plan types are, but you can see that ideas are showing, objectives are showing, projects or epics are showing, which represent the planning hierarchy of the organization. You can see that I can mark favorites, things that I own, things that are shared with me, or all plans, and it just depends on your role whether you will have access to one or multiple of the plans. If you're just a project manager, a product manager, you're only going to be seeing things that you actually own. If you're part of a PMO, you will be seeing pretty much everything as a manager. We have a way to show recent conversations and threads for specific items. You can see that a lot of these have to do with tasks that the team either I have, as Daniel Williams, I have actually commented on. But some have to do with plans themselves and you could at any time go and view the thread or jump directly to the item. Here you can see the task list that I have to complete, and things that are overdue, things that are due this week, this month, and it's really a subset or a view into all work, which, as you can see in this little briefcase here, is my work. If you haven't seen OnePlan before, we have what we call areas on the left and navigation, and they represent the way that this template has been built, and it's a way of isolating specific features and data based on your role. So as a team member, I have a home, and I also have my work, and that's mostly what I'm going to be working in as a team member. And if I need a time card, we do have the ability to manage actual hours by day, by time period, and that this is what someone that has to complete a timesheet would do. So this is the team member experience, those three items there. So if we continue going down our areas, I'll begin with ideation. I'm going to begin with the EPMO scenario, just so that you can experience what that is all about. So here I have no ideas, but I can also have all ideas. Now, OnePlan does have a request portal for everyone in the organization to actually submit ideas, and you can see that we have a number of them closed and review. So we could focus on ones that need review, and that means that they're still going through a life cycle. And the way that that occurs is, here we have a proposed idea. The proposed idea can go through a workflow with notifications to different users based on the actions that need to occur for that ideation phase. These are all uh, drop downs, that someone within the organization will have to complete, either whether they're uh, a formal business case or elements of a business case. This business case can also evolve along the life cycle. And this is a simple representation of an ideation form. You can see that we have financials, prioritization, the enterprise architecture. What am I actually impacting? Key results, products, applications, initiatives. Are there any initiatives? There's none yet tied to this. This is likely going to be a project. So as you move it through the life cycle, what would happen is, you will eventually, move it to a different state. And if we're ready to then reorganize it, what we call here is where we would take the idea and we would convert it to a project or epic, depending on what we want to do. We could convert it into a key result or an enterprise architecture element, but in this case, the scenario is we're going to convert it into a project and then make it part of our execution portfolio. Something I didn't mention, if you wanted to actually plan resources at this stage, you can, or plan financials at a greater depth, you can. One thing that is important, even at this level, there's a prioritization score. So you could be looking, okay, these are the ones that are highest based on the business case, and that's what we're going to then move forward into our execution portfolio. What that means is, again, I've gone through my reorganize step, again, converted into a program, project, or epic, and then I will have it within my execution portfolio. So now we will get into our continue the development of the business case, perhaps, and all the data that we had in ideation, we're going to see here within our project form. Now that we've actually reorganized it and made it into a project, the life cycle of the item now changes depending on the plan type. We call these plan types, and I'll show in a second what I mean by that. But depending on that type of plan, you could have a different life cycle. You could have a different form also. But anything that you started within that request phase can come in and continue the journey of the item as you get it to a selection and plan state. Again, workflow can drive the change in the life cycle. You'll note now that we have some additional tabs for this plan type. We have details, we have financials, we have resource plans, we have the work plan itself. This is where the task list is being defined. And we also have reporting and visualization, which I'll also show. The elements of this details page, can change again depending on its type, but you can see here that we have the business case, the prioritization information. You can have your own scoring criteria, the association to your enterprise architecture elements, more importantly, applications, products, value streams, schedule information. You can put in dates, or you can develop a work plan that I'll show in a second. And then we have financials and effort, again, coming from our financials and resource plan. So we are within the EPMO scenario within strategic portfolio management. So now, we're developing this entire data set around this initiative in order to get to a selection and prioritization scenario. So one of the more important capabilities of OnePlan is really resource management. So you see here that we have the ability to do top-down and bottom-up resource planning. The bottom-up can come from an agile plan or a waterfall schedule. The top-down can be resource managers defining um, um, allocations of resource time based on proposed requests that have been made by project managers or scrum masters. And again, this is and the negotiation process can occur. This is your top-down resource plan. If you wanted to see actuals and compare how actual hours on task have evolved, you can see that we actually allow you to bring in that timesheet time to see that. This is for an individual item. So we're looking at an individual resource plan for an initiative. If you're interested in doing financials, we have the ability to do that also, again, depending on how deep you want to go in your cost types, whether you're tracking the initial budget, looking at the forecast, based on planned work, actuals that have been reported, and importantly, more importantly, benefits. Okay, so what are we getting out of this initiative? And that's critical. So we have the ability to manage all of that. You can do comparisons between each, between your budget and forecast. Are we actually on track based on our initial plan and our forecasted spend? And likewise, budget against actuals. And we haven't started capturing actuals yet, but you can see that we need to we will be able to see whether we're actually on track or not. The last part, and this could be the first, actually, one of the first steps you do, which is, planning the actual initiative. And OnePlan does have a scheduling capability. So, if for those that don't have additional tools that you want to bring in, you could be doing your waterfall schedule directly within the tool. And, here you can, see that we do have advanced capabilities in terms of being able to plan in different scheduling modes and using different task types. And more importantly, can we actually make resource assignments in order to calculate the effort on a particular task? You can see that we have dependencies. It is an active Gantt, so if I wanted to, I could move these move the items directly within the Gantt, and that would change the schedule. We have planning views, Gantt views, cost views, baseline views, and so on. But Waterfall is not the only capability. We do have a backlog capability in order to be able to show if you're planning epics, features and stories and tasks. So in this case, it's being done directly with OnePlan. It's not connected to any tool. And like I showed earlier in my presentation, I can connect to different agile planning tools. We have just two here, Azure DevOps and Jira. But if you're using any of the other ones, we can actually bring those in also. In this case, we're planning our agile plan directly within OnePlan. So this is, again, still within our enterprise project management office scenario, EPMO scenario. You can see here that we can manage also sprints. So this item has been developed to the point that we can actually place it within our prioritization. And that's where we would go to our modeler. And so you have the ability to create different models. Here's one that's already been created. And we have a $25 million budget and a $20 million budget. Don't want to go too deep into it as we don't have the time, but you can see here that we've created a model that has all of our 134 items that are part of our IT planning. So can we actually, develop a scenario where we see, how we actually get to the different scenarios. So these have already been built. But basically the concept is that I have, the ability to define a target, and it can be on committed effort, it can be on benefits, and that target then allows me to decide what I'm going to select in order to get to that specific target. So we started with 134 items, and you can see here that 80 in this scenario, the $20 million budget, 80 are in and 25 are out. Perhaps there is a higher priority initiative that we need to take into account. And let's see, out of the ones that were left out, here's one that's has a very high prioritization score, and hasn't been yet started. But if I added it in, what is the impact to my scenario? And you can see here that we are as I add elements in, my effort is increasing, so I could still do it. Here I'm slightly above my target budget, and I haven't reached my benefits, obviously, because I took them out. So as you can see, as I'm adding projects, I'm in this case out of budget. So that's where your in and out analysis can come in. So once you have this set of projects, maybe we don't do our proposed. We can start with that, taking those out. And you can see now that I'm getting closer to my, well, we'll take the on hold one out also. I'm getting closer to my total budget that I have actually defined. So it's a slightly different scenario that we had initially. Maybe I want to save this one, and I can just go ahead and say, without proposed. So that's an easy way of, defining projects that are in and out. So another important element is seeing the impact of these. So the associated key results are shown here. Also the products that are impacting. So maybe some of those items that I took out are going to have greater impact, and I need to be careful in order not to actually, make sure that I not, by taking them out, not impacting the key results that we're trying to get in, address and achieve through strategy execution. So again, the prioritization score came from our initial business case of the initiative, and I can use this to develop again different scenarios. So the other important element is that I can compare in terms of, okay, what's included within each. So which of the projects that are part of one, and what's the ranking? So this particular project is in our $25 million budget, where we had a lot of resources. New customer support portal is number 2. In our second, down case, if you will, is ranked number 90. So it's not as important, in the when we went through and did our down scenario. And likewise, we can compare and see, what's the ultimate impact in terms of what we're doing in terms of effort, budget, and plans that are selected for each. Other aspects of our what if modeling involve balancing resources. So from here, we could, if now that you've made some decisions, can we get to a point where we can, focus on resource management? Here, I can continue to deselect projects to see if they're going to have a favorable impact on my resource load. So further using, the selection of items in order to balance my resource pool. The other thing I could do is take some of these items, especially these proposed ones, and then move them out to see the impact they're going to have. And I'm basing this scenario management capability on the individual resource plans that were created with the team members. Similarly, I can select financials and see whether I'm actually, within my the target that I defined. And here, we've added some charting capability to see exactly where we're at in terms of our spend. So that is, the what if capability for our enterprise PMO scenario of strategic portfolio management. What I'm going to do now is let's go to the to our second element, which is you see here that we have associated key results. So how do these get developed, and how do we achieve that strategy execution management that we addressed earlier? So the way we do that, we go to my strategy area within OnePlan, and here's where explicitly in this case a model of objectives and key results has been defined. If you need it to be hierarchical with these and have your business unit OKRs underneath here, you can't do that. We've done that for several customers. So very succinctly, what you can see here is that we have, objective and key results. We have different views that allow us to have a perspective on, key results by business unit, by status. This is important because one of the elements for doing strategy execution management is actually doing check-ins and making sure that the key results are being updated as you are making progress on them. Prioritization is also important, status, compliance. So let's get into some of these views so we can see. So who's actually driving a lot of the strategy within my organization? And you can see here that it's IT, product development, and marketing. And if we go and look at the status of these items, you can see that there's one that is off track. The current metric is at 33%, so we can drill into it and get all the attributes around that that specific item, and you can see here exactly what is taking place. It looks like it hasn't been updated, so it's something that we need to get to the owner and address. If we go to another one that's at risk, similarly, you can see this one, it looks like it's just at risk, which means that we're off track from where we want it, but we do have some associated key results, which means that these key results are driving us being able to achieve the intended launch of new products successfully. This is an annual OKR. It has a very high prioritization. And we can see from here that it's at risk probably because, and this is one that's at 33%, means that there is an associated idea. So we might want to push this forward in order to see if we can have greater impact within our metric for generating MQL, marketing qualified leads from email marketing. So, and we know we can go to Erlich Bachman in order to see that. There are specific reports and insights, for them, and more importantly here is where we start seeing, the relationships between all of the items at an objective level. So I'm going to go back and look at all ideas again, just to quickly go to another view. Let's see, by key results by status. So now we're dealing with the key results. In other words, these are the metrics that we need to impact from our initiatives in order to achieve our objectives. And you can see here that based again on the check-ins that have occurred, we can see the key results that actually need more attention. And you can see that we only have one project or epic associated to it, so one initiative, which means that we haven't invested enough in trying to make this product engagement of 80% score come to fruition. So it's likely that we need to see if we can, focus more investment in this one in order to get it back on track. From here, we could be looking at the summary data from our reporting, and OnePlan has a report pack that is driven, for all of the different areas that are shown here. So within each of the areas, you will find there's a report pack. This one is the one that addresses the our strategy area. So we have an objective portfolio. Shows us where we're at. Here we looked at, from a business unit standpoint, IT has some important initiatives or objectives. I say in terms of our objective progress, which ones are not doing so well. This is the type of report that you would want to share with leadership. Here's the marketing one that we were looking at that was off track. In terms of key results, you can see the ones that are where we're not performing according to progress, and the ones that where we're doing okay, and just a different visualization of the same data. So from here, we should be able to focus on, what are the key results that need greater investment through projects or epics. So that's our, like I said, our second component, which is a strategy execution management component, where we can actually see, in this case through a board, what are the key results by objective, and which ones have dependencies, and which ones need attention. Here's the three that we were looking at in terms of the ones that are underperforming. So the next element is our strategy. We've gone through the EPMO, we've gone through strategy execution management, is our business architecture. So for that we have a specific area, and here we have an EA roadmap from our roadmap capability, where we can see, how are we delivering on this particular item, and we're looking here at by business unit. What are we delivering in terms of products, capabilities, and value streams? So at any time, if I wanted to, I could go in and look at the item in terms of what we're looking at. We're looking at our e-payments, product development. Business unit is addressing this. It's already been launched, and you can see that we have some releases in terms of these products that we're actually managing here, and you can see who's actually impacting, what business unit is it actually impacting. From here, we could go into our application summary. I mentioned that application portfolio management is the kind of a first step, and within the EPMO, we're tracking 3 applications. Now, I showed earlier that visualization is an important component of it. So here we have a predecessor. So there's actually a relationship between these 2 applications that we need to take into account. And if we actually wanted to see, okay, how does this relate to the our entire hierarchy? So we can see here that all of the application runway, which tells me this application that I'm looking at, what are the key results that it's actually related to, the objective that the key results are actually also driving, and then forward looking in terms of projects and epics, what are the projects and epics that in this case are related to my application. And then finally, from a business architecture standpoint, what's the value stream that I'm actually impacting? What this means is, if I decide to change this application in terms of its investment, what am I likely to impact? And I can see here all the metadata that I've captured on it. If I go back to my details, on the application. Again, if I'm bringing it from a enterprise architecture repository, or I'm defining it here, you can see that my application information, application vision is showing, and you know, all the objectives that I'm impacting Valley Stream, and then the initiatives, which are the projects or epics that I showed in the visualization. And you know, the life cycle of the application is also shown here. If you're if you're interested in extending this further into a repository, we also have the ability to integrate an enterprise architecture repository to complete the IT investment portfolio initiative. Here we've actually integrated you know, Smart 360, which can, you know, supports it is a full EA repository, which we connect to OnePlan. All right, I think I'm going to wrap it up now. So one important step, if you're thinking about doing strategic portfolio management in any of its use cases, we have a business strategy workshop, which is the first step for any organization, you know, looking and planning out an initiative of this type. It's a great way of driving consensus and defining, you know, what you're going to be releasing by phase. And you know, it's something that we've done for many years and have great success with larger organizations that are, you know, trying to, again, drive consensus and bring together everyone in order to focus on that first step. So you know, it can be done, you know, for any size of organization and initiative, and again, it adds a lot of value in determining, you know, what you're going to, what part of your business challenge you're going to address over time. This is something that we do as part of our advisory practice. So I hope you've been able to appreciate, you know, the elements of strategic portfolio management. Really, portfolio management overall has evolved, and now we're focusing more on managing outcomes and execution. That, I think that's where the strategy and strategic portfolio management comes in. OnePlan provides all of the technology component and practices in order to be able to do strategic portfolio management. So you know, if you're considering improving any of those three use cases, you know, please consider OnePlan as a viable option. We follow a phased approach to build the capability over time, the strategic portfolio management capability. So you know, depending on where you're at, we're able to meet you and recommend a path forward in order to make that improvement. And lastly, I said it a couple of times, you know, we focus on where can we improve by addressing, you know, the greatest business challenge or opportunity for improvement. So if you focus on that, you're going to get payback, be successful, and then you iterate through it in the additional use cases that I talked about. We have trials as part of our solution set, so feel free to go to oneplan.ai solutions or through AppSource, whichever is easier, and you can test any of the solution templates that we have in portfolio management. There is one specifically for strategic portfolio management. This is the one that I showed today. But if you wanted to start with something more focused or narrower, you can. You can see that we have one for Agile, for adaptive portfolio, which has Agile and Waterfall, and then professional services product, and or just collaboration work management, which is purely execution. In addition to the trials, we can do obviously personalized one-on-one demos to address your requirement set. Please make contact at contact@oneplan.ai, or directly. My information is listed here. Feel free to make contact directly, and I can direct you in the right way to through our resources. Thank you for your time today, and we hope to see you again in another one of our webinars.